I'm Dr. Timothy Johnston, here with Module 7 of the amazing customer service experience for dental practices. How to get from average to amazing with your patient customer service. Module 7, Part 7 is odds and ends, as I call it. We've been focused an awful lot on initial exam, case presentation, hygiene, dentist interface. A lot of that information you can get from a variety of sources all throughout the internet, or if you go to seminars with customer service type of presentations, although there's very few of those anymore. This, however, is about my favorite unit, my favorite module, because it's chocked full of hodgepodge, odds and ends, the things that most practice consultants never bother to talk about because it seems too little, too picky, too minute for them to talk about. Almost all this is customer service based. I have a little bit of clinical in there just because I felt it was the right spot to put it. It's the odds and ends. And this is my favorite because if you take all of this collectively, this module alone will separate the wheat from the chaff. Will separate those with average customer service to those with above average customer service. You could be doing everything else I've talked about on a very average level. If you master the things that I'm going to talk about for the next module, you'd be amazed at how much better your office is going to run in terms of patient communication and customer satisfaction. So let's get right into it. Dealing with customer complaints. In other words, conflict resolution 101. Were you ever taught this, even in a psychology class? It's very poorly communicated to most people. Here's what happens. Somebody complains to you. There's 3 steps. Step number 1, acknowledge the complaint. We'll go through an example in a minute. Step number 2, empathize, feel for them. And step number 3, ask for a resolution. I'll be very specific. I didn't say resolve it. I said ask for a resolution. Let's give an example. Someone comes in and says such and such happened. You go, I understand why you feel that way. That's acknowledging it. That's, I'm sorry this happened. I try to avoid the word sorry if I can, but I'm saying, I understand why you feel that way. Next is empathize. If I were you, I would probably feel the same way, right? And probably you would. If you had their knowledge base, whatever it may be, and their particular situation, you'd understand and you'd feel the same way. Third, how can I make this better for you? I didn't say how can I fix it, because you may never fix it, but you can probably make it better. I didn't say here's what I'm going to do. I want to know what they're looking for, because the best way to resolve a person's complaint is to give them the resolution they were hoping for when they walked in, because they all have a resolution, and they're waiting to see if you're going to meet it. Well, why not just ask them what it is? Often what they're asking for is less than you're willing to give, especially when you're talking about money. If you think someone's coming in and complaining about a crown, and you think, oh, they want all their money back, they usually don't. They want it fixed, number one. If they're looking for a monetary thing, they want you to maybe take half off the next cleaning, or give them a $200 rebate for time and trouble, whatever. I mean, they went to another dentist, they had to get an x-ray just to prove that what you were doing was correct, and that cost them $100. I'll take $100 off your next bill. The resolution is often easier to resolve than you think it's going to be. So first, acknowledge. I understand why you feel this way. Second, empathize. If I were you, I'd probably feel the same way too. And then third, ask for a resolution. My favorite line is simply this: how can I make this better for you? Done. Let's go through it. What if their ask is more than you're able to give? You ask, how can I make this better for you? And they say, well, you can make it free and give me a year of free cleanings and a puppy. Whatever. They say something outrageous, right? And you can't meet that. You could say, I'm sorry, I can't do that for you. But you've just now entered into the negative zone. You are no longer in their corner. By acknowledging and empathizing and asking, you are on the same side of the equation, so to speak. It's you and your patient against the problem. You're not the problem maker. You are with them against the problem. We're going to fix this together. Now they say what they want, and you go, sorry, I can't do that. Now you've jumped rope, you're on the other side of the line now. You're part of the problem now. Instead, say this: let me tell you what I can do for you, right? I want a free cleans for a year and a puppy. You go, what I can do for you is, and then describe what you can, and try to make it beneficial, try to come somewhere on that, is I can certainly talk to the doctor about a discount on the crown, or whatever it is. I'll make stuff up and get some bad examples. But whatever it is, stay on the same side of the equation with them. What I can do for you, so you're on the positive side. The can't is the negative side. Don't do that. That by itself could make you one of the greatest conflict resolvers in the universe, just knowing that much. Don't answer with a negative. Don't say I can't. And you're answering with a solution. You're not saying I can't, because then their resolution got thrown out the window and you didn't offer anything else. Give them a positive result. What I can do for you is, now we have a result. We're not still hanging out in limbo with the, here's what I want, I can't do that. You haven't resolved anything yet. Start with what you can do. And emphasize the word can. What I can do for you is, not What I can do for you is, action words. Develop some spiels. I like the word spiel. I don't know why I like it so much. I looked it up. It's informal, it's a noun, it means a long or fast speech or story, typically one intended as a means of persuasion. So in other words, it's just your rap. You're just talking, you're just chatting about what you got. Let's talk about some spiels. If you develop these spiels, your life gets easier because people understand you better, because you're talking like a person, not medically. Let's talk about this. What are the 4 possible treatments for a missing tooth? Do you know them right off the top of your head? Because they should rattle off like that. Number 1, you can do nothing. If it's a fun patient, someone's got a sense of humor, front tooth broke, it's out, it's gonna be missing now. What can you do about a missing front tooth? I say, option number 1, you can do nothing. But then you have to shop in Walmart late at night in your pajamas. Because we've all seen those videos, the people of Walmart, and they're almost always missing a front tooth. So someone with a sense of humor, I'll say that to. Someone who has no sense of humor, I skip that part. But it's true, you can do nothing. There are people walking around every day that have done nothing. It's an option, not a good one. Option number 2, you can replace that with a partial denture. I could put something in like a flipper or a partial with metal rods on it, whatever, and make it a come in and come out deal. If you have a teeth on either side of that missing space, I can make a 3-unit bridge for you, but it carries some compromises because I have to work on the 2 teeth on either side of it. And then the 4th option is a dental implant, which is what I would suggest in your case, simply because we can leave the 2 teeth alone on either side. It stays a 1-tooth problem. It doesn't become a 3-tooth fix. It becomes a 1-tooth fix, and the success rate of implants is better than anything else I've described, including leaving it alone, because if we leave it alone, there's other things on the other teeth that will begin to happen. And now you get more detailed conversation. But do you have that spiel? That's my 60-second what to do about a missing tooth. And then they help guide the conversation, and then we'll finish that conversation up. What's an endo-apex locator? Another spiel. As I hook it up to their lip and they see me messing with the lip and attaching stuff, they just see wires and they assume electricity and their eyes get a little big. And I say, I'm hooking you up now to a little computer that helps me to see inside your tooth electronically, kind of like sonar, but for teeth. I've said that exact same group of sentences together for 25, 30 years, just like that. It's amazing I don't talk in my sleep and say that, because I do a lot of root canals too. It is always met with a profound, in the eyeballs, like a computer in my tooth. Pretty cool. I mean, it's really not. It's just an impedance ohm meter, but when you describe it correctly, it sounds pretty cool. You're high tech now, doc. What about an extruded tooth after a root canal? You do a root canal, some inflammation takes hold underneath the tooth, and the next day your tooth stands proud, right? Oftentimes it goes from here to there, because all that inflammation is lifting it up under. They come back a day or 2 later like, geez, doc, after the root canal, I can't even put my teeth together without that one jumping. I say, oh, that's because it's gotten some swelling underneath there. So let me explain how this happens. And I'll take 2 plastic cups right out of my cup bin right there, and I'll put them together. And I'll say, the one that's here, the first one is your bone. This one is the tooth, and it fits right inside there, very intimate, like 2 plastic cups put together. And after we do a root canal, sometimes the skin that's between those, they talk about the skin of your teeth, they're talking about that membrane that lines the two, that can actually get some inflammation. And when it inflames, the bone doesn't retreat, the tooth just kind of pumps out of the socket a little bit. It literally stands proud. And I'll do that. If I'm sitting, I'll just sit up straighter and go, it just stands proud. Becomes the only thing you're hitting. Let me just shave a little off the top where you're hitting it, you'll feel great. Oh, okay. Makes total sense. I don't have to get into the whole inflammatory response, wait 3 days, let me give some steroids, all that. I do inject steroids after my root canals, 4 milligrams of dexamethasone in a 1 cc syringe. If you're not doing that, start after every root canal, after every implant. It'll make the inflammatory response real low key for 3 days. If they were having a really exaggerated response, on the 4th day, you'll get the call. And that's how you know it really would have been bad days 1 through 3 had you not had the steroid on board. But usually by the 3rd day, the inflammation curve is back down to within normal limits and you'll feel better. That's a conversation for you and I, not for your patient. For the patient, cups, swelling, standing proud, let me skin some off the top. Then they're, okay, fine, if that'll make it feel better. When does a tooth need a crown? I tell them, you've got a big filling in that tooth. Here's my criterion. If the tooth is going to be made up of more than half filling material when I'm done, it needs a crown. Or if any one of the cusps that make up the biting tips of your tooth is broken off and I can't put a filling there because it'll break off, then it needs a crown. And that's true, but there's my spiel. There's how I know I need a crown on a tooth. That's what I tell patients. Sugar and teeth 101. This is a little bit longer spiel. I don't give it all that often, but I give it to the ones who need it. They're usually some 20-something-year-olds that have never heard this and they're starting to fall apart, often somewhere in college, and they're coming in with multiple cavities. I'm going to put what you and I already know into lay terms so that they get it in about a minute, minute and a half. Ready? All right, here's what you need. This is what I tell a patient. I'm going to give you Dental Biology 101. Here's what you need to know. There's bacteria sitting on your teeth all the time. They're hanging out, doing nothing, just waiting, just hanging around. As soon as any amount of sugar comes in your mouth, whether it's a grain of sugar or a can of Pepsi, doesn't matter which, as soon as that enters your mouth, all the bacteria in your mouth start activating at one time. That little grain is enough for all of them to eat. They start eating the sugar, and they're at the same time excreting or pooping out their acid byproduct. So they're eating sugar and pooping out this acid, the pH of about 3 or 4. Remember your pH scale from biology in grade school? 1 is acid, 14 is base, 7 is where we live. An acid of 3 or 4 starts eating away at your tooth. And for 20 minutes, that's going to continue to happen. No matter how much soda you put in your mouth at one time, for 20 minutes it's going to keep on pooping out acid on your teeth. And that's how cavities form. So there's 2 ways to limit your cavities. Number 1, keep as much of that bacteria off your teeth as you can. So brushing 3, 4, 5 times a day. I personally brush 5 times a day. I've already brushed 3 times today, and I've flossed once. So brush 5 times a day and floss once. Again, I'm going to break it from a side. All this that I'm just describing is what I'm saying exactly to the patient. Back to camera, back to the patient. I say, so the one way to do it is to keep all the bacteria off your teeth as best you can, knowing it's never going to be completely off. So the second way to prevent this is to limit the frequency of sugar in your mouth. It's not about how much sugar you drink, it's about how often it enters your mouth. Because remember, the bacteria picks it up for 20 minutes no matter how much you put in there. So here's my test to you. Do you want to, for your health of your teeth, would it be better to go ahead and drink a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi with lunch and then go brush your teeth? Or take a little can of Pepsi and just sip on it all throughout the day? And they always have the right answer, I guess, sipping throughout the day. I'm like, right. So now keep in mind, it's not just soda that's giving your teeth sugar. It's 49,000 out of 50,000 products in your local grocery store. That's a true statement. Out of 50,000 items in an average grocery store, 49,000 of them have some sort of sugar in them, whether it's maltose, sucrose, fructose, dextrose, whatever. There's sugar in everything you buy in the store, especially if it's been canned or boxed or whatever. So if you are just putting those things in your mouth all day long, it's going to keep replenishing the acid supply. Now, with that information, brush more often and don't use as much sugar, or at least not the frequency. And now, cut and scene. That's my spiel for a certain group of people that really need to hear it. And I can tell you, I have turned around some lives. I've turned around a fair number of young adults who were just on this train of candy and sweets and studying in their dorm and brushing once a week. I mean, who knows what they're doing. And turn them around. And it's a good feeling when you turn someone around. So there's my dentist, my sugar and teeth 101 spiel. How about fluoride for adults? I touched on this in another one of our videos, but for the sake of this, fluoride for adults. What are the cavity-prone years anymore? Cavity-prone years used to be when you were a kid. Now cavity-prone years are age 65 and up. I get more cavities in my seniors than anybody else. Why? Because their teeth are dry, their mouths are drying out. Medications, especially heart medications, but a lot of medications, cause you to have dry mouth. When your mouth is dry, the saliva is not washing across to wash those acids we just talked about out of the way. Therefore, dry mouths get more cavities. What's the one thing that I can give you on a regular basis at home that will keep you from getting that many cavities due to dry mouth? Fluoride. When you're here, you take the fluoride treatment. When you go home, if it's really dry, I will give you fluoride drops to use on your toothbrush. There's my spiel, fluoride with adults. After they hear that, they'll take care of it. Again, the new cavity-prone years, I just talked about that. It's 65 and up, not 15 and under. What's a root canal? We talked about that a minute ago. It's like taking the lead out of a pencil. It's like taking the sap out of a tree, whatever. The only negative to that is once you've taken that sap out of the tree gets a little brittle. Same for the tooth, and that's why we're going to put a crown on top of that tooth afterwards, because it'll get brittle and break down otherwise. End of spiel for what's a root canal. Why do I need a crown? Tylenol and Advil for painkillers. I discovered this 10 years ago in an implant course, and I've been using it ever since, especially with all the opioid crisis that's going on. Nobody wants to take opioids and admit to it anymore, even if they needed it. I don't want to take any. It gives you the upset stomach and diarrhea or constipation, whatever, and loopy head. You can't drive your own car. Tell them this: if you'll take 2 Tylenol and 3 ibuprofen, 2 acetaminophen, 3 ibuprofen, and this is written down in all of my post-op instructions that could cause any kind of discomfort. So you take 2 Tylenol, 3 Advil at the same time. The synergy is like 2 plus 3 equals 10. That's what I tell people, or 8. I wrote down 8 here, whatever. 2 plus 3 equals a bigger number. And then tell them the Tylenol goes to your liver and the ibuprofen goes to your kidneys, so it's totally safe to take together for a few days. Don't do it for the rest of your life, but for a few days of discomfort because we just pulled 5 teeth or did 2 root canals or whatever, use that combination. You'll be very surprised at how well it works. In fact, a couple of university studies have even shown it works better than Vicodin. So when they hear that, they go, oh, I'll give that a try. We've been doing that almost exclusively for pain control for at least 10 years or so. Wonderful results, wonderful. The times that I prescribe something stronger is when a patient requests it. Doc, I know what you said. I really want some Vicodin. Okay, I'm not going to withhold pain meds. I mean, we'll give them the appropriate amount, 10 or 12, to last 2 or 3 days. Too much radiation. Do you have a sheet? It's on the internet. You can go look it up. There's a sheet that relates the amount of radiation to a bunch of other things, like flying across the country in an airplane for 4 hours. That's the same as taking 4 white wing x-rays. I think eating a banana is on there. It's lower than x-rays, but how much radiation you get eating a banana? There's some. How much you get from radon living in a brick house? I know radon is a big scare, like underground, but you know all bricks have radon. It's really, really low, but so is our dental x-rays. The fact that it's on the same scale, it shows some high things and some low things. One of the examples I like to give is this. Before we had intensifying screens and digital x-rays for chest films, right? One chest film was more radiation than you would get in your entire lifetime in a dental office. I've had 2 chest films in my days. Am I worried I'm going to get radiation poisoning from that or get cancer from that? No. So please don't worry about my dental x-rays. The amount that we deliver with intensifying screens and digital x-rays is so minuscule, it's a non-event. We don't even wear radiation badges anymore in dental offices because it's just not enough to ever come up as a thing. So there's your spiel on radiation. How picky should we be? Again, one of those little odds and ends that just kind of fits in this better than anywhere else. How picky should you be? About what? Well, about everything. About everything. What's the best way to accomplish a task or treatment? You figure it out and be picky as you can about how to get that thing done. Let's talk about some examples. Do you prophy or scale first? I know hygienists are taught to first scale and then prophy. Why? Did it make sense? Just how we do it. I have a good analogy for this. Family's together for the holidays, and the wife says to her husband, you go ahead and chop the ends off the ham and I'll get things ready to put in the oven. He goes, all right, he's chopping the ends off the ham. He goes, why do we chop the ends off the ham anyway? She goes, I don't know, that's how my mom did it. So mom's in the next room, go ask mom. Mom, why do you chop the ends off the ham? She goes, well, that's how grandma taught me to do it. I don't know. Well, call grandma, she's nursing home. Grandma, why do you chop the ends off the ham? She goes, well, it wouldn't fit in my little tiny oven otherwise. So they're doing it because someone taught them that didn't have any reason or bearing on today's treatment. All right, why do you scale first and then polish afterwards? Because you were taught that way in dental school. But think about this. How much of what you're getting off the teeth needs to be scaled off and how much can be polished off? I would suggest that maybe 80% can be polished off. So we go through and either the hygienist or the hygiene assistant polishes everywhere first and gets 80 or more % of the gook off the teeth. Now the hygienist can focus on the remaining tartar, the hard parts that are stuck there with her scalers or her cavitron, and focus on that 20%. You'll argue that there's a little bit of stain left over after you get done with the removal of tartar. I agree, there is. So go back over it. You'll spend another 2 or 3 minutes with your polisher just touching up the areas where you had to do it. So polish, scale, little polish again at the end. Patients' teeth are cleaner, your hygienists don't work as hard. We have patients ask us all the time, I thought you should do it the other way around. And I have the hygienist explain that to them. Well, we find that the polishing gets off most of the stuff, and then I can really focus all my time on the worst parts of it. Don't worry, I'll polish again when I'm done. Fine. And that's an extra step. People acknowledge that we're doing it best. How about sealants? Best managed in the field. Doing everything picky. You're being picky about this. In dental school, you were taught to isolate the tooth. How? However you could. They didn't really teach you. I would suggest that you need 2 people to do sealants. I will not let anybody on my team do sealants solo. They have to get a partner because you can't get a good sealant on a moist tooth. End of story. Can it? It's got to be bone dry from after you rinse off the acid etch until you apply the sealant. If you don't have it bone dry, you're wasting their money and your time and probably causing decay later on down the line. So get 2 people in for every sealant. You'll maintain isolation. Way better. Or put a rubber dam on, but really, who's going to put a rubber dam on a 6-year-old for sealants other than in dental school? Burrs to use. I've got a slide on this later. Which burr do you want to use to take out old fillings, for example, or a cavity? A 330, a 245, or a 5T7? I'll talk about them more in just a moment. I got a picture. How about smiling when talking to a patient? Do you have a nice, attractive smile on your face to talk to a patient, or even on the phone? If you answer the phone, hello, that sounds different than hello. You can't help but to have a better voice when you're smiling when you answer the phone. Or if you're in front of a patient, having a conversation, have a happy face. Don't ever be down about it. Your voice reflects the curvature of your lips. Don't be down, be up. So again, picky stuff, that's the kind of stuff I do. Cement removal. Did you know that one of the leading causes of implant failure is retained cement left over after a cementable crown is put on a cementable post for an implant? True statement, really high failure. It takes a long time to see it, but it comes. So what do? We go ahead and clean up all of our cement, and then we take an x-ray. and we clean up anything off. If it does happen that there's some left on the x-ray, my assistant will call me in to do the final cement removal because I've asked her to. Because if she left some interproximal that shows up on x-ray, she might have left some buccal and lingual, which doesn't show up on an x-ray. So I'm gonna make 100% sure that I've been in there to double check cement removal if by chance she found some on the x-ray. So double check your cement removal. Or even for temporaries, look at this business on the slide. You could put that on, there's a temporary crown in place with some temporary cement just oozed out on the mesial surface there. The distal is a little bit cleaner. Well, you could say, that's only a temporary, just, I hate the word just, it's just a temporary. It is, but now when I go back in to take that temporary crown off, or my assistant does, those gums are gonna just gush with blood because they've been impinged upon by just some temporary crown or bridge cement. They're going to gush. What does that do? It makes it harder for us to get a good seal when we're getting ready to put the permanent cement in. It makes it a mess while I'm trying it in. You don't get as good of a result, no matter what you're doing, when there's blood in your field. End of story. You know that and I know that. So again, be picky. Have excellent cement removal. Have excellent margins on your temporaries. Make it fit as well as you can possibly fit. It makes your job easier. It makes the patient's end result better. Customer service that they won't even know about until maybe years later. But this is how picky I like to be. Every step matters. I learned something from my framer. This is not my house, it's just a picture of a house being framed. When my framer was building my house, his crew knocked off 15 minutes before quitting time at the end of the day to sweep my job site. Every speck of sawdust removed and put into a trash bin at the end of every single day. And they were on my house for 6 weeks framing my house. And every day, I'd go up there and check every couple of days. They removed every bit of cement. Why? Of sawdust. Because Kenny said to me, well, a little sawdust in the corner today, a little more tomorrow. Pretty soon we start measuring things, and what was a hair off because of some sawdust, now it's 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch. He goes, I want to measure from bare bones wood, not from sawdust. I appreciated that. It's pretty amazing. It's picky. Rubber dam placement. How picky? Oh my gosh, this is something that people do without even thinking about it. It bothers me. It's not permanent, right? Rubber dam isolates the tooth. It's fine. Does it matter? Well, it matters to me because it helps me do a better job, and a better job is better customer service. Take a look at this picture. Can you find 5 things wrong with this picture? I encourage you to pause this video right now and try to name 5 things that are wrong with the picture. And I'm going to tell you, there's actually 6. When you start the video back up, I'm going to tell you what all 6 are. And I know most people aren't going to pause it. But stop, pause it, test yourself, see if you know what you're doing. How smart are you in terms of rubber dams? What's going on? Ready? Pause. Okay, we're going to pick back up now. Here's the 6 things that are wrong with this rubber dam placement. So the one on the left was the original picture. Here's the one on the right done correctly. It looks almost the same. Let's pay closer attention. Number 1, there's no cloth napkin in this one. Customer service, this on someone's patient lips gets a little chafed, whereas the cloth napkin is there for a reason, keeps the latex from rubbing up against their skin and doesn't get chafed. Customer service. The frame is upside down. Maybe you didn't see that because it's kind of a 2-dimensional picture, but in this picture the frame goes down into the chin and digs into his chin. Over here it comes out, it's concave there, it's convex here like it's supposed to be. I'll give you credit if you missed that. It's hard to see in a 2-dimensional picture, but the rest of these you should have gotten. The wrong size clamp. That is a clamp that is way too oversized so that you can see the edges of the clamp going back to the other teeth. This is an appropriately sized clamp on that tooth. Your standard 3 or 3A right there. The hole's in the wrong spot. Some dentists say, oh, just punch the hole in the middle of the rubber dam and then I can put it wherever I want. Yeah, you can. And when you do that, you end up with the rubber dam being off kilter so that now the rubber dam frame is poking this poor guy in the lip. It's hanging down here off his chin. Stuff's going to run all one size. Go ahead and put the rubber dam hole exactly where they told you to in dental school. There was a reason for that. It's on a small arc. You remember that little stamp they used to have. It's on a small arc. That is for tooth number 19. It's in the right place. The rubber dam is no longer cutting into his lip. It's no longer digging into his chin. Nothing. It's set up properly. That's hole number, or item number 4. Number 5, it was not secured in all the corners over here. Not every one of these little tabs was engaged. Why not? Lazy. And what happens when they're not? Water runs where? Onto the patient, underneath the bib, underneath the rubber dam where you don't even see it until they're trying to sop up their neck from the bucket of water you spilled on them. Engage every little one of these keepers. It's important. And the 6th thing, most no one ever gets it. It's upside down. The shiny side is up over here. You know, rubber dams come with 2 sides. One is a very faint powder coating. One has a shiny side. The shiny side is for the patient because there's no powder coating. It doesn't taste like anything. If they get some of that in their mouth, they're not noticing. The powdered side is so the reflective side of our lights isn't causing glare while we're working. Less glare means we can focus better on the hole that we're working on. There's a reason one side is powdered. Why not use the powdered side correctly? Again, how picky should we be? Well, in my mind, really darn picky. It matters in the long run. It makes my job easier to do it the right way. If there's a right way and a wrong way, how about pick the right way? All right, burr selection. This is what I was back to again. You all know what these look like, 245, or excuse me, a 330, a longer 330, which is a 245, and a 557, which is the one that has cross tapers on. Gordon Christensen years ago found through his scientific studies and SEM micrographs that the cross-hatched 557 sets up a chattering that causes microscopic fractures in your enamel about 2 to 3 millimeters around the hole you're prepping. Never use a 557 on a tooth that you plan on saving. That's my story. A 57, okay, but again, you'll see why I don't want that to be used either. But a 557 I use for taking out, if I need to section a tooth, for example, that's when I'll pick up a 557. The 245 is a longer version of the 330. People say, well, why not use that then? This has the right length for getting down into a box. That's exactly 2 millimeters tall. Exactly 2 millimeters tall. How deep is a box supposed to be according to most dental standards? 2 millimeters, not the box, but the floor of the prep. So here's what I'm going to suggest. When I stick a burr inside a tooth on the proximal box that I'm prepping, and I have a healthy tooth next to it, if I get the end shank of this 245 anywhere near my adjacent tooth, I am going to iatrogenically, means dentist did it, prep the side of that tooth just a little bit where I didn't want to. Maybe it's a little bit nobody notices, maybe it's not big enough to matter really, but it's still been done. It's a problem. If I pick a 330 burr, the 330 cutting end stops all the way down here. I could actually lean the smooth shank of this burr up against the adjacent tooth and do no damage to it whatsoever and continue prepping down there. And in fact, I do on occasion. If I'm having a tight spot there, I'll actually lean up against it with the flat spot. I'm doing nothing to the adjacent tooth and I'll prep down inside. That versus the 245 where you have the potential to do damage. Plus the shorter burr is exactly the depth I want for my preps over here, 2 millimeters. Just saying, we've got choices. Pick the right thing. How about applicator tips? Boy, am I fussy, huh? Wrong, 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 and right. This can't bend around inside the prep. That can't bend down inside far enough. This is too far, it hits the opposing arch. That is bent just right. My staff knows it. They know to bend that right there. Do they complain about it? Nope, they're gonna bend it somewhere, just bend it where I want it. And everybody knows. And that way I can apply 45 degrees, halfway up the bendable part right there. Again, picky, yes. Better for everybody. I'm not slopping that stuff around when I go into an arch with the wrong bend in it. Choice of finishing burrs and techniques. Make sure you're doing something that gives you not just secondary, but even some tertiary anatomy. Here we are. Here's the 3 burrs I use for it. Everybody's familiar with the big 7406. That's a football-shaped carbide burr. And of course, you're going to do margination with that. Just get the big reduction done on the tooth and kind of marginate it down to where it meets the enamel. Good. Unfortunately, some dentists stop right there, and it looks like someone just thumbed a filling in and you're done. I would suggest to you that you pick up a 7802. That looks like a 7901 flame-shaped burr with the end rounded off. Go back to dental school days when you had to learn how to do an amalgam. The amalgam, one of the tools was a clear discoid, that was fine, but then everybody picked up a half Hollenbeck. The half Hollenbeck looked kind of like that, but just to scrape amalgam with. What did you do with it? You created anatomy. You put it down in your central groove and created a little slot, and then just kind of wiped it along, kind of creating a curvature to the amalgam so that your amalgam looked like the same contours or the anatomical grooves of a natural tooth. Use this 7802 burr in the same fashion. Give it a little bit of anatomy right up and down the middle line, and then kind of roll it out on increasing planes, different angles, until you've got that rolling kind of a look to it. Thirdly, I'll use a 7901 to get my, you have to think back to anatomy for a second, my occlusal embrasure space. What is that? That's my space right here. No teeth, no natural teeth meet up such that those two fillings are 90 degrees to each other. They have a natural roll to them. You can take care of that with a 7901. I'll also do a little bit of finishing in my interproximals before I go to my hand tools for that. So again, picky, yeah, but look, that looks like a tooth. It doesn't look like a blob of composite. That's one that I did, or 2 that I did. How about treatment alternatives? Again, I've mentioned this before. Tell the patient exactly what he needs, and then cheerfully give him exactly what he wants. You need either a 3-unit bridge, preferably not, or an implant with a crown on it. That's what you need. Patient says, I can't afford that, but I'll take that flipper thing you described. Okay, cheerfully give them a flipper. You tell them what they need, cheerfully give them what they want. Because sometimes you say you need all your teeth taken out and you need 8 implants on top, 6 implants on bottom, and crown and bridge work screwed down to it. And sometimes they say, okay. And do you ever feel bad about delivering that to someone's mouth? I don't, because I have restored them to the point where they feel like they were born with those teeth, chewing and eating everything comfortable, phonetics are right, nothing comes out at night, their lips are supported, everything's working like natural teeth. I've never felt bad about somebody saying yes to to appropriate work, which may seem aggressive, it's a lot of it. Because sometimes they say yes, and so tell them what they need. What about another doctor's poor dentistry? Ooh, this is a tough one. Chip that off. Oh, I had Dr. McGillicuddy put that in, 15 years ago, whatever. And I say, well, it looks like he did the best he could with what was available at that time. Never dog another colleague. Do whatever you can not to badger another dentist's work, because someday it's probably going to be yours. I mean, we're not all perfect forever. Be complimentary all times. Again, one day it's going to be your work. So, you know what? I've got better materials now than they used to have. I'd be happy to replace that for you. It'll look fine when I get done. Oh, don't you think Dr. McGillicuddy did a bad job? No, I think he did good with what he had at the time. Whatever. Say something. How about this one? This is a little more subtle until it's like sunlight looking at it. This is just a picture. This patient's number 9 is too dark. Beautiful smile otherwise, but too dark. And look at it from the occlusal view, it's sticking out facially too far. And that's not because it drifted out. I evaluated the occlusion. It's because there's a tooth in the bottom that is in fact pushing, it's down right there, pushing it a little bit forward. So it needed to be trimmed off a little here in order to get me the right contours. That was just done a couple of months earlier at some other practice. And the patient came to see me and said, what about it? Like, can't this be better? I said, it can be. Why didn't Dr. So-and-so take care of it? I said, you know what? I just don't like to look into the past. I don't know what was going on. Well, don't you think he bears some responsibility? You know, I really just don't want to look backward. What I can tell you is going forward, I can fix that and make it better. I'm going to do things just a little bit differently so it looks perfect when we get done. Yeah, but I think he had a... I just keep going back to it for my conversation with them. I'm just not going to go backwards there for you. I'm sorry. That would be between you and the other doctor. I know you've come to see me because you trust me. Let's go ahead and move forward. Usually after 3 or 4 of those not going backward, moving forward conversations, the patients get the fact that I'm not about to dog somebody else's work. Sorry, I'm just not going to. I'll tell them what's wrong. I'm not going to blame it on anybody. Scheduling. We always schedule columns 1 and columns 2 for one doctor. It's the 80-20 rule. I will get 80% of my work out of 20% of my people in column 1, and I'll get 20% of my work out of 80% of the people in column 2. That column 1 is all my work I'm getting paid for. Column 2 is crown deliveries, emergencies, denture adjustments, emergencies, all that kind of stuff. Stuff you're not going to make a lot of money on. In my office, we have however much time it takes to do a procedure is back to back to back in column 1, and then I'm allowing them 1 column 2 patient per hour. So I'll have up to 8 per day, one per hour, all day long for emergencies, deliveries, adjustments, whatever, denture adjustments too. And that's where my second assistant goes in and does 90% of the work because it's x-rays and paperwork and that sort of thing. So my favorite way to book, column 1, solid line all the way down, column 2, 1 per hour for all the nitty-gritty stuff. If you're not sure how much time you take, use a time-used monitoring system. So with some of the newer doctors who are describing what they need for their treatment time and then running late on everything, we'll actually have their assistant time it with a stopwatch, but look at a watch and write down, there'll be a column that day. Here's the procedure, here's how much time she wanted, here's how much time she took. We'll do that for like 2 weeks and then have an honest conversation with the doctor, like, you got to stop asking for an hour when you need an hour and a half, and here's the data to support it. And we'll get cooperation because we have data. It's not a point, and they know we're doing it. It's not like we're doing a secret. We're going to time you to find out how it goes. They usually forget about day 3, and then it becomes real. Pre-blocking, if you're having trouble fitting in these big 2-hour appointments for, say, root canal, root canal core crown on the same tooth on the same day, start pre-blocking that. And don't give up those blocks until the day or 2 before. If you have trouble filling them, then give it up a week before. But always have those blocks on your calendar. If you're booking out 5, 6, 8 weeks in advance, you can't tell someone they need a root canal and they need it as soon as possible, and then say the next possible time is in 8 weeks. You lose patience that way. And by the way, your endodontists, if you're referring out, are doing just exactly that. Endodontists are historically booked out a couple of months. Emergency time. What's the best time of day to treat a toothache? Tooth hurty. It's actually 2 o'clock. So for us, 1 to 2 is lunch, and we finish lunch at 2 o'clock, and I want any emergencies right away there. If you're still in the early stage of your practice, trying to figure out a way to pre-block emergency time, put it right at 2:30. And if you don't end up to have an emergency, you have a longer lunch, it's not the end of the world. Right? Now I've got a big enough office with enough staff, I can put an emergency kind of anywhere, and someone's going to get to it. I just got to poke my head in there. But if it's still a lot of your time and you're early on in your career, pre-block, 2 o'clock works really well. I have 30-second dance meetings several times a day. That is choreographing the dance. For the next hour, here's what's going to go on. I'm a busy doctor. I've got multiple things. They put an extra emergency where I told them they couldn't. I've got 4 hygiene checks in the next hour. I've got this, that. So I'll call my 2 assistants in, and I'll say, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go in there and get this person done. I'm going to go over there and finish cementing the crown. I'm going to go to hygiene and do a check. I'll be back over here. We'll prep out that tooth. By then, you'll have turned this room over. I'll go in and do the denture adjustment. You'll go ahead and put the band on the tooth and get it ready, get all the chemicals ready to go. Then I'll do my other hygiene check, come back, and I'll get in that room and put the filling in. I'll let them know where my head is, so it's choreographed. So I'm not just showing up in a room going, what's next? Right? You got to have a plan. If you're really busy, have a plan and have a meeting once in a while. It's your little 30-second meeting, just to choreograph the next hour. Let's talk about internal marketing for a minute. A lot of things go into play for internal marketing. Your telephone voice, not yours, but your front desk. Make sure they're smiling when they answer. That's all you got to do. Smile when you answer the phone. Put a little sign up above their computer, above their phone that says, smile now. And they'll pick it up and go, Tim's stupid signs. Anyway, all right. Hi, thanks for calling Norwich Dental Center. How can I help you? Whatever. Make sure you're smiling when you answer the phone. Don't uptalk, but smile. Reception. When someone walks into your office, what does your reception room look like? Not your waiting room. Remember, we're calling it a reception room. Magazines up to date, some bottled water in a fridge right there, some coffee and tea to eat, to drink on. My patients, the worst complaint I have is you didn't give me enough time to drink my coffee. They'll come in, put a cup of coffee, and then we're calling them back a minute later. Ah, geez, I just poured this. Doesn't matter. That's timeliness. We're on time. But you want that reception room to be spot on, clean. Walk in through your front door occasionally and look and see what you find. It's not always pretty. Scraps of stuff here and there. Or what a bloody gauze in a corner. I mean, God help you. So look at your reception room. Visual clues all around. That's just talked about. How about the smells in your reception room? Is everything okay there? They make a product that is always emitting a little bit of a perfumey scent. It could be anything. It could be chocolate chip cookies or pumpkin spice or whatever. If I could think of the name of it, I'd tell you. But we have that in our office. It's just a faint odor of it. It's not overwhelming, not overpowering, but it helps to get rid of the dental office smell. You know, the smell of eugenol is a good one, or the smell of dry socket paste. That's some terrible stuff there. Form creosol. Walk the walk, sit the sit. Again, walk through your front desk through your front door once in a while and see what you see. Make some notes, bring a pad, or take your whole team through it. For a staff meeting, once in a while, we'll just get up after lunch. I'll say, we're going to walk the walk. They know what I mean. We're going to walk in the way the patients walk in. Everybody's got a responsibility of writing down or on their phones, jotting down what they don't like. We come back to the meeting room and talk about what we saw. And we make a list of things that need to change. Something has to be painted. This needs to be decobwebbed. Oh my gosh, we still have Christmas decorations up and it's January, whatever. And sit down in your patient chairs, lean all the way back and have a look up. You might be surprised at what's in your ceiling. A lot of vents are covered in brown and gook, lots of fuzz and whatnot. But just look around. Are all the lights on? Do you have any ballasts that are out or lights that are off? Do you have a spider web growing somewhere? All those things reflect on. You never look at it unless you're in the patient's shoes. So sit. The take-home bag. You give your patients a take-home bag. What's it in? It ought to be in a little plastic bag that has your logo on it and your name. Is it in a bag that doesn't say anything on it? Well, then you're not taking advantage of some internal marketing there. Give them 2 business cards in there, one for them to keep because they might, and one to give away. You might even say, I'm putting 2 business cards in here in case anybody you know wants to come see us. That's not begging for patients. That's helping. I'm putting an extra business card here in case anybody you know needs to come see me. And off they go, oh yeah, my neighbor's been talking about a new dentist. Feel free to give one of my cards. So your take-home bag, what is that? Just brush and floss? Come on, use that bag for something more. Tervis tumblers, when we greet new patients, first time in the office, on the way out the door, a male or female is given a Tervis tumbler. The male is filled with golf balls, or if I happen to have found out the lady likes to golf, which is common where I live, then she gets golf. What kind of golf balls? Titleist, very nice golf balls with our logo imprinted on it, Norwich Dental Center right on it. That creates conversation on the golf course. Believe me. People will come back in and go, my friends want those golf balls. They're really good. Can I get some for them? Sure you can. All you want. A couple of bucks. What do I care? Otherwise, for ladies, they'll often get a rose, or if we have flowers in the office, we'll clip a rose, put it in there for a new patient. Or we have them pre-stocked with sugarless treats, sugarless gum, sugarless candy, sugarless lollipops, that sort of thing. So ready to go out. The Tervis itself is a great gift, but it's got our name and logo on it, of course. It's a great way of saying, we're doing more than anybody else you've ever been to in the dental profession. Internal marketing. Printed materials. Are all of your printed materials with your post-op instructions especially clean and colorful? We print our post-op instructions on letterhead paper. Yes, it's more expensive. But have you ever been to an office? I have, where the printed materials like post-op instructions are sort of sideways on the sheet because it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and half the letters are getting dull and there was some dust on the copier, but it got in a different place every time you copied it. So now it's like, it looks like a scratched record, if you would. You've seen them everywhere you go. Horrible internal marketing for you. It makes you look like you don't care, and obviously you don't if that's what you're giving out, or you're just not noticing things. If you don't notice that, maybe what are you going to miss in the mouth? So clean, colorful copies, printed at a print shop, not on your copier, with all your post-op instructions. It goes a long ways towards internal marketing. Video materials. I've stood in front of this camera many a days doing a variety of things, one of which, not too long ago, was to finally put all of our post-op instructions on video. It's me wearing a nice little clinic jacket, giving a 2 or 3 minute talk about what to expect following a root canal, following a crown, following an implant. We had, I think, 13 or 14 different procedures, and I gave them their post-op instructions. Bite down a gauze for this long, the whole 9 yards. It's so much more powerful coming from me in a video than just the assistant talking about it, which is still good, or even than just the paper they go home with. Our method is to go ahead, as soon as the patient checks out from a procedure that has post-op instructions on a video, the front desk person just drags that clip from their desktop into the patient's email and sends it. What could be easier? Patients are raving about it. We are going to be making those available to other dental offices soon. We have to tweak a few things, take a little bit of Norge out of it and make it a little more generic so that other dental offices can use it. But be on the lookout for that. Our website, which is just my name, TimothyKJohnston.com. There's no DDS. Look on there. If it's not there yet, you'll find them, and we're going to license it and lease it out to people for pennies. It'll be easy. What does great customer service look like? Have you ever actually taken your team on a really great customer service experience? Let me give you the simplest example you could possibly do. One day, go out to McDonald's for hamburgers. The next day, go to the fanciest restaurant in town for hamburgers, or the next week, whenever you can arrange this. And pay attention to the customer service. McDonald's is, whatever, it's McDonald's. The next time, it's still a burger. You're getting a $1.50 burger or whatever they are versus an $8 or $10 burger. Look at the sit-down restaurant, get the same meal, hamburger and French fries. The customer service is awesome at the one, and it's McDonald's at the other. Teach your staff what great customer service looks like. Do other things, but if you just want a simple, cheap, let's try this out type of thing, start with the burgers. Want to do something more? Take them to a grand hotel when you go away for your next meeting. Don't take them to the Holiday Inn. Have them stay at the Ritz or something like that. Experience. Some of the people that work for you have never experienced phenomenal customer service. They don't know what it looks like. Bring people in. I actually had one of the corporate trainers for the Ritz-Carlton come and speak to my group. He has a 2-hour keynote address that he gives. There's 5 of them in the country, 5 people. They go and they give these keynote addresses where they're not busy working on their own team members, which they don't call staff or team or members. They call them our ladies and gentlemen. People who work at a Ritz-Carlton are referred to by their colleagues as our ladies and gentlemen. Their guests are their guests. The ladies and gentlemen are there to serve their guests. It's just a whole upper echelon. It's an amazing talk to hear. They've thought about every picky detail in their world, kind of like I have in my world. It's fantastic. Photos for internal marketing. Do you have some cases that are really going to go well? Like, here's something that's not great, and you're going to make it great, and you know it is. Take some photographs, put them on your website. This young lady, fantastic personality, so alive, so chipper, so fun. She is a former Radio City Music Hall rockette. So, you know, she's like up to here and legs up to here. Just a beautiful girl, married, 3 kids, adorable little family. But look at her teeth. Well, I'll bring up close in a minute. Before and after. The smile that she got from my veneers improved her whole look. Yeah, she's colored her hair and she's styling it differently, but this was 7 or 8 years ago and she's still keeping this up. She didn't revert back to kind of the messy mom look. Here's, I think, there you go, close-ups of what we did. That's the before. There's the afters. It's just I knew it was going to be fantastic. She had a pretty face with a great frame around my work, and I knew that if I missed the befores, I'd never be able to show the afters. So take some pictures. Get your befores and afters going. Put them on your. Please don't put somebody else's material on your website. Or worse yet, there was a dentist in my town who worked on a hygienist who went to work for her and had her before and after pictures for veneers. They weren't well done. The hygienist ended up coming to work for me, and my before picture, because I redid the veneers, is the after picture from that other website. And now my after picture is here. So it was before and after, and that after was my before, and now my after. Huge difference. And she's a dental hygienist. She talks about it all the time. So, know your abilities and do it right. Communicating during appointments. You ever have to get up and go do something? Check a hygiene, take a phone call, talk to your wife, order lunch, whatever it is. If you're going to leave the patient for a little while, tell them why, even if you have to make it up, because there's nothing worse than waiting other than waiting without a reason. Here's a good example. If you're on an airplane, you're traveling all the way across the country, you're in the plane for 5 or 6 hours, you'll sit there quiet as a church mouse for 6 hours, all the way across, not be bothered by it all because you're on the way to destination. Maybe get up and go to the bathroom, otherwise you're there. That plane lands, and it gets just 10 feet from the gate, and you get the seatbelt, here, click out, and they're telling you, we're not there yet, buckle back up. You're so anxious. Why? Because you're there. And now you're just waiting for no reason. Well, they haven't pulled the plane up. And then they park, and you feel it stop, and the bell hasn't gone off, and the bell hasn't gone off. That's the longest 5 seconds in the world, right? Waiting for that. So you can unbuckle and get your suitcase and go. Waiting for no reason, just terrible. Don't let your patients wait for no reason. Let them know that cement is hardening now. We're going to let that sit for about 3 minutes. Sometimes that's sit for 5 minutes. 8 minutes. Why? Because I've got 5 minutes worth of work to do somewhere else, or 8 minutes worth of work to do. Now, you can't let cement harden that long. It's a bad example, but you get the idea. What am I waiting for? Impression for the temporary. You put an impression in, what are you doing? I'm going to use this impression later to make your temporary crown so that it mimics the shape of your own tooth. That way it won't feel so foreign in your mouth, even though it's a temporary. That took me 10 seconds to say. My assistant says it as she's seating the alginate impression in the mouth. We're going to wait for that to harden now. It takes about 3 minutes. And then they can go do whatever they want. This is what we use to, again, communicating. This is what I use to desensitize the tooth. I put this chemical on so it doesn't get that. This is the filling material I'm putting in today, let's say it's Fuji, actually has fluoride built into the composite resin, which will leach out into your tooth over the next 2 years, creating a stronger tooth around the filling than just by filling a tooth all by itself. Isn't that neat technology? So I'll say that. So communicating during the appointment. Fillings are as hard as natural tooth, but watch for a numb lip. I'll say it all the time. You're all set today. We do those 3 fillings in the upper right. You're good to go. In fact, you can chew anything you want right now. Just be careful about your numb lip. You got to just be communicative, talking to people. That's all customer service. Here's one of my pet peeves is dentists who are speaking, or hygienists or assistants mostly, speaking at a pace that is too quick for the patient to keep up with about something that is very routine to us, like post-op instructions, versus new to the patient, like post-op instructions. So if you've taken out 10,000 teeth in your life and your assistant is given 10,000 times the instructions for biting gauze, no straws, heat tomorrow, warm salt water tomorrow, all that, but if they roll through it like an auctioneer, the patients don't hear any of it. All they hear is blah, blah, blah. You know what they say? Is that written down? They shouldn't have to ask. You're giving it to them. This is written down, but let me go over the details and talk at a pace that the patient can digest the information and ask questions. Do you understand about the gauze? How long you keep the gauze in there? Every 10 minutes change it? Okay, you got it. So go through it. Post-op instructions. Let's see. Referrals to specialists. If you need to refer things to specialists, do they reflect your standards? You know there are some amazing specialists out there who do great work, but is the package that's wrapped around their great work up to your standards? In other words, have they walked the walk and sat in their own office? Do they have Broomhilda for an assistant, or is it a really nice lady that's there helping them? Are they kind and considerate to your patients? All the things we would talk about. Are they a reflection of you? Because if not, your patients hold you accountable. Why did you send me to that creep? Oh my gosh, he was nasty. His breath stunk. Ugh. You need to know who you're referring to. Please be aware of it. It's a reflection on you. Do they have your same professionalism, the sights, the smells, the sounds, all the same things, the same level of care? That's, in other words, is your patient getting value from the referral, or are they just going for because you don't want to do their work? If I was going to refer to a specialist, I would say because he's done a lot more of these than me and he's better at it. Or this just isn't in my wheelhouse. It's not something I've decided I want to spend time learning about, so I'm going to send you to a specialist to have that done. He's awesome. I'm going to build him up. He's awesome, does some great work, super nice guy. You love his staff. That's value. You're building value into the appointment. And what do we tell our patient referring out? Well, sorry, I got ahead of myself. I tell them all that I just explained right there. What's the best practice builder of all times? You probably know it and still don't do it. Evening phone calls. If they get a shot, they get a call. If you're in your first 5 years of practice especially, you can't build your practice any faster than with phone calls at night. You give them a shot, they get a phone call. And here's how it goes. Hey, Mary, it's Dr. Johnston from Norwich Dental. Yeah, I was just calling to check and see how your mouth is feeling after all the work we did today. And then I shut up. And Mary will say some things. Usually, oh, thanks so much for calling. I'm doing fine. No problems. Great. And then I have, all right, well, just glad to hear you're doing well. I'll see you next time. Bye. Done. That takes me 60 seconds. I'll do it on my way home. I will make the calls from my cell phone while I'm driving, right? Not a big fan of that, but I have my staff print off my call list with extra big letters and numbers, so I can actually just see it right there. And now what I've done is I touch the keypad of my car and tell it, call this number, call 757, and it does it, and I'm talking over the microphone. So it's not a big problem to call from the car. And I can write off my cell phone because it's part of the business now. My wife's name is Kelly, Kelly's Experience. My wife has been married to me for my entire dental career. We met when I was in my freshman year of dental school. She knows that I call patients after extensive treatment. I maybe don't call every single patient that gets a shot anymore, a shot and an occlusal surface, they're fine. But if it's anything invasive, root canals, extractions, any kind of surgery at all, or just a bunch of fillings or an involved crown, I'll call them. She knows this. She hears me on the phone. If I don't make the call from the car, I'll do it when I get home. She's very aware of Dr. Johnston calling patients. She had to go in and have something done. I can't remember what it was. This is a few years ago now. I think it was an eye thing, whatever. She got a call from the eye doctor that night just to check in. Hey, Kelly, it's Dr. So-and-so. Just calling to check and see how you're feeling today after what we did. Great, fine, thanks. Thanks so much for calling. She gets the phone. She goes, can you believe that? He is so nice. I mean, he's a busy doctor. He took the time out of his evening, probably family time, to call me to check and see how I was doing. What a wonderful doctor. I look at her like, I do the same thing. She's just become immune to it, like becoming nose blind to the smells in your house. She's become care call blind because she hears me all the time. Even with her knowledge of what I do, she was so impacted by that guy's phone call and the niceness he expressed, she just couldn't stop talking about it. I'm like, so clearly my calls are having an impact on the people I call as well. And they do, because they come in all the time to the front desk like, Dr. Johnston called me after he did that work. He's so nice. So it's impactful. You want to grow your practice? Call your patients. Give them a shot, give them a call. Huge. Welcome and thank you notes. I have put more time into writing the few words on these next two slides than most people put into writing an essay in high school. I've been picky about everything up to this point. Why stop now, right? So here it is. Mary, first name basis. I am thrilled. I'm pleased. I'm happy. Thrilled really hits it. I am thrilled to welcome you. Welcome, not you, welcome your family. Include everybody because I want them all to come to our family. Family's in there twice. I love that. Your family to our family of patients. In other words, my patients are all family. See you again soon. Not Dr. Johnston, not just Tim, just my name, Tim Johnston, first and last. They know I'm the doctor, and it's all good. If you want to plagiarize that and copy it, feel free. I get a lot of positive responses to that. Every single word has been thought through very thoroughly. The thank you note, same idea. Here we are again. Mary, thanks so much, not just thank you, thanks so much for referring Sally, she knows who Sally's last name is because they've just talked, to our practice. We will take great care of her. Not just thanks for referring her. We'll take great care of her. Your friends and family, I'm never sure if Sally is like a sister-in-law or a neighbor. Maybe they told me, but I forgot, or maybe it wasn't written down. So include everybody. Your friends and family are always welcome here. Tim Johnston. Again, just my name, no doctor. They know I'm the doctor. They don't need but not too informal, just Tim. That's a little too informal. So those are, same exact verbiage been used for almost 30 years since we first developed it. It's wonderful. Where is the level of customer service in America right now? It's at a very plateaued level, if you ask me. Alls you need to do, this was a TED Talk not too long ago, alls you need to do to shine beyond exception is go one level higher than average. I think he said one level better than sucks. But you get the idea. Because most customer service today is really not up here. The average is below average, if that makes any sense. If you get just one level better, your practice will shine like you can't imagine. Because nobody's expecting it, especially from a dental office. Let's talk about uniforms. I want there to be uniform surroundings. All my dental chairs are the same color. All the rooms have the same appearance, the same paint. When you walk in, it is a homogeneous look. I had a professional decorator come in and help with keeping a clean through look, if you will, so that everything kind of blends as you go. Uniform surroundings, everything happens. Even during closed days. So when we are not open for business, so we all went to a seminar, but there's one person standing behind to man the phones, every light in the building goes on. The sign is on, the lights are on. Why? Because I want to look open. I don't want to look closed ever. You ever been to a restaurant at closing time? Near closing time? You're the last table. They're out there mopping the floors and tipping up chairs on top of tables. It makes you feel very unwelcomed. you start to think, we're going to need to hurry up and eat because they're trying to get out of here. It happened to us once at a chain restaurant. I don't even like going back there if it's late at night anymore. So it just makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't give that vibe off. My hygiene team routinely finishes 10 or 15 minutes before the dental team, and they used to walk out and there's a separate wing. They'd shut their wing of lights off in the winter. It's dark over there. I made them stop doing that because as our patients are leaving from dental, they're looking over there going, oh, were you guys trying to close? No, we're all here. Even if everybody's gone, we're all here. Lights are on, building's open. Mental uniformity, that's what this is about. Have you all gotten on the same page? We did that synchronicity test in Module 5. Have you all had a topic of conversation to pull together and realize what one person is saying and how they meant it? Are you on the same thought? Are you on the same brain wave, so to speak? You've got to have that mental uniformity so that you're not saying one thing and your assistant's saying another, or if there's two doctors, they're not saying two different things. Are we all on the same page? Physical uniforms. I am a huge fan of uniforms, and they need to be appropriate for what your job description is. I love stories. Here's another one. My mom broke her knee a bunch of years ago, and I had the opportunity to take her to one of the doctor's appointments. I was off that afternoon. So I took her in, and a young lady behind the desk checking us in was wearing full scrubs. Not matching, by the way. Solid pants, flower top, whatever. Okay, not my favorite, but okay, you're in scrubs. I'm wondering why she's in scrubs if her job is the front desk. She disappears. A moment later comes out of the hallway door and calls my mom in. I go with her, just I'm just going to hear what the doctor says about it. And then she takes us into the room, and that same lady takes blood pressure and starts to ask my mom questions about how her knee's healing and all that. I just asked her. So I'm sorry, Joan, or whatever her name was, is your position nurse or front desk? And she says, oh, I'm a nurse, but I was just helping at the front for a bit. Don't help at the front if you're in clinical attire, because what I think, and a lot of other people think, is you just brought blood up front. Scrubs are to be worn to prevent you from contaminating the rest of your life. You go home, take your scrubs off, or change right there in the office, get rid of the scrubs and wash them. You're contaminating the rest of your life if you're walking around in scrubs. That's how people see it. People like me, that's how we see it. Have a uniform for the front office. My ladies buy from, I think it's Ann Taylor or Ann Taylor Loft now, something. And I have 8 people up front in various positions. They are all dressed identical. Their uniform is different Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday, but every Monday is the same, every Tuesday is the same. And it looks like business attire. You would think you're walking into a Fortune 500 company and stepping up to the receptionist desk when you talk to any of my ladies. And we get more compliments on that than you can possibly imagine. People just love the uniforms. You guys look so professional up here. Good, and they should. Everyone in the back is wearing scrubs. They all match. Tops and bottoms match each other. You don't get to pick your scrub. I don't have 16 different scrubs going on. It's all exactly the same. Doctors, come casual. I usually don't have a tie on. I would otherwise be dressed just like this with a clinical white jacket with my name and our logo on it, buttoned right up so nothing's getting on our stuff. Be uniform in your uniforms. Don't mix and match. And don't put clinical attire at the front desk. Nobody's doing anything bloody up there. Yeah, front desk and scrubs. Airlines, here's a good one. You ever think that maybe the pilot's up there in Tommy Bahama jeans and a flower shirt? They're not, unless you watch the show Wings. The opening show of the very first episode of Wings, one of the brothers was sitting in the first class section of their little tiny plane, hanging out, having a drink. It looked like a cocktail, but it wasn't. And he's like, is this pilot ever going to get on here? Everybody's low. He's, I'll fly it myself. And so he's in just street clothes. He walks out front, gets the pilot seat. Of course, is the big funny episode that follows. Is that what you expect, though? I mean, do the airlines ever have casual Friday where the airplane pilot shows up in shorts and a scrub top? Uniforms are meant for places of business that people do interactions in. You are a place of business that people have interactions in. Make sure your people are dressing the part. How about casual Friday? My staff actually came to me once years ago and said, can we have casual Friday? I said, that's a great idea. Tell me all the patients that aren't going to come in on Friday. They're like, what? I said, because some of your patients only ever come in on Friday. Their checkups are always on a Friday. They're only off on Fridays. They're going to start to think that we don't know how to dress nice or dress appropriately for a dental office. So let's talk about casual Friday. Here you go. Casual Friday. What's that say? Not always a good idea. He's there in his boxers. I love this. Casual Friday, Will Ferrell style. She just looks uncomfortable. Even as an actress, she looks uncomfortable. It says, Letitia ruined casual Friday for everyone. Sad but true. It says, your shirt is profoundly inappropriate for a casual Friday, let alone Monday through Thursday. Because that's what happens with casual Friday is it gets a little overdone. Don't have casual Fridays. Don't have casual clothes. Use appropriate work. That's the end of Module 7. I hope you've enjoyed it. It is really a hodgepodge of a variety of things, all very important to being the practice with the best customer service that you could possibly imagine. We're going to move into some more technical stuff next. I hope you've enjoyed this module. It was my favorite.